I'm going to be calling the meeting to order. I want to welcome all that are here this evening, and glad to see you all. If we'll stand, we're going to have the invocation this evening by Sandra McDonald. She's the Gillespie County resident. So please come to the mic or wherever you feel comfortable, Linda. Sandra. Amen. Thank you, Sandra. Pledge allegiance this evening. I've asked Bill Schneider to lead us in this. Bill? Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Bill. Appreciate it. Employee recognitions.
Mayor and Council, I don't have any employee recognitions for this evening.
Okay, thank you. This evening, we're going to go to item 5, public comments on the agenda. We have 3 people who have signed up. You will have 3 minutes. You will get a 1-minute warning sound, and then you will get the end sound. Same one. And when you come up, if you'll give us your name and if you're a city resident. Our first speaker on the agenda item is George Studer, and then Jed Burns, you're on deck. I don't think your mic is on, George. Your voice isn't quite as booming as
There you
Sandra.
go. Okay, George Tudor. I'm
Thank
from in the city up by the Cross Mountain. I'd like to comment on the invocation, since it's the one on the agenda that I care about. First of all, the invocations have been put in place thanks to your insight, and this year has been different, I think, because we've asked God to help us with this. And I would hope that everyone here in the room that attends, as well as yourselves, would lift up your needs to God. And along that same line, I want to continue to pray for you in the meetings. And I have a commitment that I think people should think about their commitment to their city when they're thinking about New Year's resolutions. And now's the time to think about those before the first of the year. And so I would commit to be involved and to pray for y'all and be here so I can learn and be wise about how I do that. And finally, I would ask that you would consider an ordinance against All Scrooges. I went to the Scrooge over the Playhouse. It was very impressive.
George, could you make that comment again, please?
I'd like to have you consider an ordinance against all Scrooges in Fredericksburg.
I'm sorry, I
I was
misunderstood.
motivated by the play. Thank
Well,
you.
that's really not on the agenda, George, but we appreciate the comment.
Okay.
Jet, and then Jeanette, Vermouth, you're on deck. I don't see a timer up front here. Yeah, I know, but I'm not looking over there. I'm looking at the speaker. Give us a second before you start. Okay, very good. Thank you.
All good?
You bet. You're ready to roll.
Good evening, Council. My name's Jet Burns. I'm outside the city. First off, I want to thank Eric Whiting back there doing the stream. I'm looking at the preview here, and I had sent him an email a while back requesting the council be put next to the speakers like this, and I really it looks great. Thanks for listening to the feedback, and did a good job. And also want to thank the City Council and the Mayor and all the city staff for working very hard for us. You don't get too much appreciation from us too often, but I do appreciate it. Even if you do make some mistakes, we're here to help you out. So,
Jed, I appreciate your comments, and boy, that's good news. But your time's running out on your agenda item.
I'm good. I got a quick comment.
Thank you.
On item 10A, Kent Myers is going to be discussing the TML retraction that they made quietly. From what I understand, the city wasn't made aware that the TML stance on the what are they then? That contract that y'all signed with the U.S. Treasury. There's some language in there, and the TML put out some statements about it, and it wasn't very clear. And even one of them was a false statement, and then they retracted it soon after some citizens pointed it out. And as far as we're aware, they didn't let us know. They didn't let the cities know. 1,138 of them across the state. And thank you, Kent, for pointing it out to us later this meeting. But you were relying on them for guidance, sounds like. And you even discussed that a couple of meetings ago. Daniel, I think y'all had discussed it a bit, but relying on TML, a taxpayer-funded lobbying group, for guidance like that, and then seeing that they were wrong, that doesn't seem very wise. I'd recommend that y'all discuss these contracts a bit more with your attorney, because it sounded like he had a couple of issues with the contract once we brought it up. And it sounded like y'all hadn't been discussing it in too much depth, and that was concerning. I just ask that y'all look deeper at these contracts, especially when it has words like executive orders in there as requirements. It's dangerous. If you miss even some small words, they can have big consequences. I request that y'all reject the American Rescue Plan funds through that. It's dangerous. We don't know what these executive orders could be down the road. Appreciate y'all listening to me, and I'll talk to y'all later. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, Jeanette Harmuth, you're up.
Jeanette Harmuth, Fredericksburg. The Texas Municipal League has retracted the erroneous statement that the city's controversial contract for ARPA funding was not with the federal government. According to Kent Myers, TML did not notify Fredericksburg of the retraction. However, he will offer the correction tonight. I find it deeply troubling that TML would withhold such vital information and not alert their member cities, such as Fredericksburg, of the retraction. Accurate and truthful information should be essential from an organization funded by our tax dollars and whose responsibility is to provide knowledgeable and trustworthy guidance used to inform city policy and decisions. To post false information, be corrected of the error, and then silently retract it without proper notification represents gross negligence and incompetency on their part. There are questions that need to be answered. The following have been posed to Kent Myers, who has stated he will answer tonight. I pose them now for our council as well. I would like to know what led you to share the false statement from TML in the first place, stating that there was not a contract between the city and the federal government. Did you not sign the agreement yourself with the U.S. Department of Treasury? Did you not read and understand the clear terms, which includes compliance with executive orders? Who would enter into a contractual obligation in which the terms were left open-ended? Why would they? And why did you? Don't you think it would be more transparent for you not only to announce the TML retraction tonight, but to also have the Fredericksburg Standard clearly state that, one, this is a contract between the city of Fredericksburg and the federal government. Number two, the contract does state in the terms and conditions, recipient also agrees to comply with executive orders. Would it also be appropriate that this be placed in an equally prominent and visible location in the paper, as was the article TML dismisses strings attached worries? Why has this information never been provided to the public? I emphasize not only the need for the answers to my questions, but also the need for specific critical information regarding the contract terms and conditions be properly and fully disclosed to the public. It is the people who will ultimately pay any penalty and or suffer any injury that results from this unprecedented contract, and therefore it is the city's official, ethical, and moral duty to ensure that the people are fully and properly informed of these terms and conditions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jeanette. Yeah, this was the last person who had signed up for our agenda item public. We'll move on now to item 6, consent agenda item. The following items may be acted upon in a single motion. No separate discussion or action or on any of these items will be held unless pulled at the request of a member of the city council. A, consider the approval of the city council's December 6, 2021 regular minutes. Anyone need to pull this? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Have a motion by Tom.
Second.
Second by Jerry. Any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion
Aye.
carries 5-0. Public hearing, 7A, consider a public hearing to receive citizen comments for or against a request from the city of Fredericksburg to amend section 7.510 measurements of heights of Appendix B zoning ordinance of the Code of Ordinances to clarify the measurements of building height within the city and to resolve conflicts with the code section Z2124. I'll entertain a
I
motion.
move we go out of regular session in the public hearing.
Second.
I have a motion by Jerry and a second by Bobby. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion
Aye.
carries. Is there anyone here who'd like to speak to this, please? Come up. If you would, state your name for the record, please.
Good evening, Council. Mayor Keeney. My name is Kyle Stout. I work in the public service department for the city of Fredericksburg. And as you know, we do have a discrepancy with how we measure height, and we're just wanting to clear that up. If you see in your, do we have
Mayor, point of order. Kyle, are you talking in public hearing or are you giving a staff report?
I'm talking in public hearing.
Okay.
Okay. Is that appropriate?
Yeah, well, I mean,
We've done it both ways in the past.
Okay.
I don't know that it's necessarily wrong or incorrect.
Okay,
is he speaking?
go ahead.
Yes, so a little change in order this time. Thought I'd give Kyle an opportunity to present before council, so I'm gonna kind of sit shotgun on this one and let him do the presentation. So if you want to address your questions to Kyle, that would be appropriate. And then if there's something he can't answer, then I'll be glad to step in.
Okay, please continue then, Kyle.
Okay.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, you're fine. Well, as I said, we do have a discrepancy with the language that we have. Historically, the way we've always measured building height is by taking an average, and that's where we measure it to. If you look in your definition, under the measurements of height, it takes it to the ridge or to the highest point of the building. And on your different pitches of your different styles of roofs, that can get, you're limited to what you can do. So what we're proposing is to take the definition, and that's where we take it from grade to the average points. I don't know if you can move to that slide, Jason, with the yes.
Just pass it up there.
Yeah, see, so with the measurements, it goes to the ridge line, and with the way we've done it historically since I've been here, it always goes to the average height. So we're just trying to clear that up. So when developers come in, we can give them the correct information and not, there's just one set of standards that we're going by.
Okay, thank you. If we have any questions, we'll ask them after we get all the public hearings.
So
Anyone else that'd like to speak to this item?
I'm moving to close the public hearing, go back into regular session.
Second.
Have a motion by Tom and a second by Kathy. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Public hearing B, consider a public hearing to receive citizen comment for or against from Kevin Spraggins, applicant for approximately 9.754 acres of land described as ABS George E. Brandt, number 42, 60.7175 acres farm located at 162 Homick Lane. The following items: Z2125, agenda pack items: I, future land use change from low density residential LDR to future land use classification of commercial C. II, zoning change from single family residential R1 to a zoning classification of neighborhood commercial C1.
I move we go out of regular session in the public hearing.
Second.
Jerry and second by Bobby. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Oh, someone's already there.
Hello.
Hey, Kevin, I'm sorry. I was going to invite anybody who would like to speak.
I mean, you were so involved. I just thought I'd just go ahead and just.
Thank you
get
for
up here
speeding it
instead
up. Thank you. Appreciate it.
of Waiting. But Kevin Spraggins, VEI Consulting Engineers. We are here tonight requesting a zoning change from R1 to, originally it was C1. That's what you have in your packet. Jason can elaborate on this as well. But when we first sat down with DRC, it looked like if you see the heading that's there on your screen, that C1 is next to us there, and C1 is across the street. So staff originally said, "Hey, we'll just extend this C1, and it's contiguous, and we'll call it that, even though you are doing multifamily, and C1, the C1 follows the R3 development standards that we'll follow." So after staff continued to review it, they looked at it and they said, we feel more comfortable with using the R3 because that's the standard that you're actually going to adhere to anyway. And so we have no problem with that. We discussed that at P&Z and all came to the agreement that is the best way to do this. We do have a site plan that's in process for both tracks, both the C1 and the proposed R3. It will be at P&Z, and so we are following through with that multifamily development. And so we are asking for R3 approval, as was approved at P&Z. And I'm here. Also, the developers are here to answer any questions.
Thank you. We'll ask questions after a while. Thank you, Kevin. Anyone else like to speak to this item?
Mayor, I move we go out of public hearing back into regular session.
Second. Have a motion by Tom and a second by Kathy. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, there is none. Motion carries. Moving on to 7C. Consider a public hearing to receive citizens' comments for or against the following: 82.36 acres of land generally located on the west and east sides of Post Oak Road from West Live Oak to 2,800 feet north of Bowie Street. I, future land use changes from rural residential RR, low density residential LDR, parks and open space POS, and commercial C to low density residential LDR, medium density residential MDR, and commercial C. I, proposed zoning from single-family residential R1 to mixed residential R2 and neighborhood commercial C1. I'll entertain a motion.
Move we go out of regular session into public
I have
hearing.
a motion by Tom,
Second.
second by Jerry. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Does anyone here like to speak to this item?
I move we go out of public hearing back into regular session.
Second.
I have a motion by Jerry and a second by Kathy. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, there is none. Motion carries 5-0. Moving on to 8A, ordinances and resolutions. A, consider the approval of ordinance 2021-37, amending the section 7.510 measurements of the measurement of building height within the city and to resolve conflicts with the code sections and providing an effective date. The council may waive the second reading. Z2124. Jason, you need to add anything to what Mr. Stout mentioned?
Nothing to add to Kyle's report, and so, y'all have any specific questions for me?
Any questions?
Nope.
Jerry?
No.
No.
Kathy?
Just one question. So with this change, with the Seco development, that 3-story building change, be approved under this change?
Yes, it actually wouldn't be approved under this change. We had actually amended the PUD at a prior meeting, and that's what
Okay.
kind of brought this to our attention. So this is merely to clean up little housekeeping duties for our code for future possibility for projects like Seco's.
Right, but if they came in under this new provision, it would be approved as they were.
Yes, it wouldn't affect their project.
Okay.
Because it's a PUD.
Yes.
I'll move to approve and waive the second reading.
Second.
I have a motion by Bobby and a second by Kathy. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, there is none. Motion carries 5-0. Moving to 8B, consider the approval of a request from Kevin Spraggins, applicant, for approximately 9.754 acres of land described as ABS George D. Brandt, number 42, 60.715 acres farm located at 162 Holmick Lane to consider the following items. Z2125. I, ordinance 2021-38, adopting a change from the comprehensive plan of city, specifically in the land use map, changing said property from low density residential LDR to commercial C, providing that the change become part of the comprehensive plan and providing an effective date. II, ordinance 2021-39, amending the zoning ordinance of the city and changing the zoning district, changing the said property from single-family residential R1 to neighborhood commercial C1 and providing an effective date.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Kevin was referencing R3.
Yes, sir.
So is the ordinance C1 or R3?
It depends on the motion from council tonight. So if you go with P and Z recommendation, then we would need to amend that ordinance and bring that back.
The ordinance I drafted in your packet reflects a change from R1 to R3. But the agenda still says C1 because we always have to notice for the most possible intensive use. And so C1 is more intensive than R3. But the ordinance as presented in your packet on page 29 changes the zoning to R3. If council wants to do something different than that, you just need to let us know and you have to redraft it.
Okay. No further questions.
Jerry?
No.
Kathy?
One quick question. Does R3 prevent any commercial businesses along Friendship Lane?
Yes, so R3 is just the multifamily zoning district. That's the only use that's allowed. So as Kevin mentioned in our meeting at original DRC, when we looked at this, we did feel comfortable with C1. C1 is not particularly full of uses that are considered not compatible with adjacent R1. It's more of your office spaces, personal services, which are neighborhood commercial, so you want them next to R1. But when we looked at it further, we did realize that this is going to bisect to several large R1 zoning districts. If the project were to go away, it could be a lot of commercial in that area that may be not warranted. And since the C1 does require you to actually point you to the R3 development standards for height, density, and all of those uses, setbacks, so it doesn't even go by the C1 zoning. We felt that this would let them do their project and provide the city with some protection in case that project should go away and another one come in its place. So that's why staff recommended, we can support the C1 and the future land use change, but we recommend probably a down zone to R3 and multifamily residential versus commercial in the future land use. P&Z agreed with staff, and so their recommendation was approve the future land use change. Instead of commercial, do a high density residential, and instead of the zoning change on C1, they recommended the R3.
Okay, so just so I'm clear, if we approve R3 instead of C1, Kevin's project doesn't contemplate commercial uses, I guess, but it's supposing that project goes away or part of it. Is the staff opposed to commercial, light commercial as you described along Friendship Lane?
No, we're not opposed to that. It's really, I think had this commercial been more in line with kind of what you see in the area as far as its depth, we probably would have just supported it straight out. But since it is so deep property all the way to the end, we felt it might be more appropriate just to go with the multifamily residential so that they could do that use.
And if this project goes away, can it go back to C1? Should another developer come in?
That the future owner would have to amend it back if they wanted to go back, but it could, yes.
Thank you.
Mayor, I have a motion.
Kevin, I guess there's no questions. You did a wonderful job.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Mayor, I move to change the future land use from low density residential LDR to high density residential HDR for approximately 9.754 acres of land described as ABS A0180G DeBrant number 42, 60.715 acre farm located at 162 Holman Lane.
Second.
Have a motion by Tom and a second by Bobby. Just so I'm clear, is that motion accurate to what you were addressing?
Yes, sir. I didn't catch though. Did you write the second reading on that motion?
Yes, I waived the second reading.
Okay.
I agree to that too.
Call for vote.
You're smiling. I think that's good.
I think we're ready to
You
go.
gotta call for a vote.
Okay, I will.
Okay.
Let's do it.
With all that being said, I will entertain a motion.
I just gave the motion.
I'll entertain a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion, opposed, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
Mayor,
now double aye.
Mayor, I move to change the zoning from single-family residential R1 to multifamily residential R3 for approximately 9.754 acres of land described as ABS A0180G DeBrant number 42, 60.715 acre farm located at 162 Holman Lane, and waive the second reading.
Second.
Have a motion by Tom and a second by Bobby. Any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed, there is none. Motion carries 5-0. Okay, now we're gonna move to item 9. This is public comments not listed on the agenda. Our first speaker tonight is Deborah Hobbecker, so if you'll come up and then, again, if you'll give us your name and if you're a city resident for the record. Edward Brody, you're on deck.
Good evening. My name is Deborah Hoppecker.
And of course, you've been up here long enough, but you'll get the warning sound at 1 minute and the end sound and start the clock over, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Deborah Hoppecker. I live in the city and I want to thank you for serving. On December 6th, 2021, I spoke about several items that, in my opinion, needed to be addressed and brought forward to the public forum. Open government and full transparency is necessary for citizens to trust effective and truthful governance. On Wednesday, December 9th, 11:39 a.m., I returned a phone call to a person who is officially employed by the city. This was a high-ranking public official whom I have known for over 22 years. This person who claimed to be my friend is not one. A friend would not call you in this high-ranking position and try to silence your right to free speech. A friend respects who you are and your individualness. A friend understands that we all have opinions and the right to these opinions. Why did this person feel responsible to comment on what I say in City Council? What gives this person the right to call a citizen and a voter to question free speech? Who else encouraged this phone call? Who else deems it necessary to restrict questions and entertain this blatant oppression? This was not right. Even though I know this individual to use authority and position to try to intimidate me from voicing my opinion on concerns related to the city affairs. Receiving this phone call borders on official misconduct. We, the people, are here because it is our American duty to be involved in the governing process. We have the right to speak our personal truth without fear of any reprisals or intimidations. Thank you.
Thank you, Deborah. Edward, Rhodey, you're up, and then Sandra Slater, you're on deck.
Edward Brody, County. I just wanted to let you know that I had printed out a chapter 43. Mr. Jones said it wasn't right. He issued me another one. He come back, said that one wasn't right. I must have mistaken and got it from somebody else on there. But I look back, I got receipts on both of them from the city on both of them. I asked higher up for a copy, and it's the first one that y'all issued me, which there's 7 categories you got to go by. So I've got the Attorney General going to look into this situation. I was wondering, timeline, y'all already pushing through there. And they informed me there was no statute of limitations. I said, what happens? They put it in already. It's just that the city's going to lose their money. He said, that's their deal. If I'm correct there, or y'all are correct, we're going to just determine what this is. It said it would take a little time, so we're just going to let that go on. Thank you.
Thank you, Edward. Sandra, and then Jerry McCorkle, you're on deck.
Sandra Slater. I live in the county. And I have been, along with many people, ignorant of our constitutional foundation. We, especially now, are educating ourselves, and with that education will come better government. So in that vein, I'm going to read the following. U.S. Constitution, Article 4, Section 2, Part 1. The citizens of each state shall be entitled to all privileges, immunities of citizens in several states. End quote. Because we all share common rights throughout the United States of America, my choice of quotations from other state constitutions is valid and true in Texas. Texas Constitution, Article 1, Section 19. Quote, no citizen of this state shall be deprived life, liberty, property, privileges, or immunities, or in any manner be disfranchised, except by the due course of the law of the land. Kentucky Constitution, Bill of Rights, Section 2, quote, absolute and arbitrary power over the lives, liberty, and property of free men exists nowhere in a republic, not even in the largest majority, end quote. What is an executive order? Black's Law Dictionary, 2nd edition. It is directive action from a prime minister or president to its executive governmental agencies in an official document. An executive order is not a law. And if one mistakenly understood it as a law, then read the following. Norton versus Shelby County Supreme Court decision. Quote, an unconstitutional act is not law. It confers no rights, it imposes no duties, affords no protection, creates no office. It is in legal contemplation, as inoperative as though it had never been passed. Madison versus Marbury, Chief Justice John Marshall noted, quote, a law repugnant to the Constitution is void, and that court, as well as other departments, are bound by that instrument. Miranda versus Arizona, Supreme Court decision, quote, where rights secured by the Constitution are involved, there can be no rulemaking or legislation which would abrogate them. Thank you.
Thank you. Jerry, and then Mary Lee Marshall, you're on deck.
I'm Jerry McCorkle, and I live in the city, have for 20 years. Thank you for letting me speak. I was here at last meeting, but I got here so late I didn't get to sign up to speak, so I'm going to address the STR situation tonight. My neighbor 2 doors down from me, Bill Schneider, was here and he spoke last week, and we're all entitled to our free speech according to the Constitution. I live in the same block as him. As far as I know, there's 8 STRs in our 2-block area there, and I've lived there for 11 years now, and I have never had a problem with noise or parking or anything. I hear Hondos if I go out in my backyard, but if I shut my windows and door like I do in the wintertime, I can't hear anything from anybody. So I have no complaints about them. And according to what the paper said from this guest column by Randy Briley, that the percentage of complaints from STRs is the lowest on the scale as far as police are concerned, as far as parking, noise, and other ordinance violations. So I don't see a problem with STRs, and I think of them as an advantage. They might even lower our taxes, because when you look at the hotel tax, the hot tax that they drive into this city, we ought to be able to have lower taxes for us residents who live there in a residential community. Thank you.
Thank you. Ken, could you address hot taxes versus as a revenue for the city, please?
Yes, sir. I think you're asking me to reference the state law with regard to hot. Jerry, hot revenue cannot be used for police and fire and other general fund services. So our ability to lower the tax rate from hot revenues, we really don't have that ability. It's a separate fund, and we have to use it only for uses it puts heads in beds. In other words, tourism activity, that's the only thing hot revenue can be used for. So we would love to get changes in the state law, but we're pretty limited on what hot revenues can be used for. Oh, we get benefit. We got to use it for special events and other tourism related activities.
Sales tax, Jerry. That's where we get it. Sales tax.
We do get sales tax. It helps.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they're an economic driver for our community, Jerry. But unfortunately, hot tax funds can't be used except for what's designated by state. I wish we could say we're going to put it into the tax rate, but we can't. Is that a fair statement? Okay. Mary Lee and Bill Schneider, you're on deck.
Hi, thank you for letting me speak. I'm Mary Lee Marshall and I live in town. I don't know who. Can you hear me?
Yes, very well. Thank you, Mary.
I don't know for sure who it was that lied about the comments Tom made on July 19, but nobody on this city council has made any public effort to correct the record, as far as we know. So, as far as we are concerned, you're all lying and your credibility is shot. I do know who lied to us about the contract signed with the feds to get the COVID money. Kent Myers, you will never live this down. You have been caught lying in public before, and but this time this is in the court of public opinion, and no liberal judge will sweep this under the rug this time. When you pee on our shoe and call it rain, we know the difference.
Thank you. Bill, and then Jeanette Hermuth, you're on deck.
Bill Snyder, I'm a resident in the city. The proposed STR ordinances were first discussed at the University Center on September 13th, 2021. The decision to complete, vote on, and implement the new STR rules, regulations, and ordinances continues to be the can that gets kicked down the road. First it was December, then it was February, then April, and now I think it's an undetermined timeframe. The council should make the decision to complete the process and implement all changes that are agreed upon. Those changes should take place prior to the start of early voting on April 25th, 2022. The upcoming mayor race, as well as 2 city council seats, are at stake. The voting public deserves to know the council's decisions on STR ordinances so they can make an informed decision at the upcoming election. Simply, residents want to know if the STR changes are a dead issue or if the proposed changes are still being considered. If we wait until April 15th, that's 8 months that the proposed changes have been made, and I don't see any changes on the horizon. So, just a comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Jeanette?
Hi, my name's Jeanette. I live in Fredericksburg still.
Unless you're in California, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I wanted to wish you all Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you.
Sincerely. And I do, again, like Jet said, I really appreciate how the video, having everybody up there, that's very, very nice. I just have one quick comment, and that is that if the public comments are moved to the end, which if you remember, everybody came and you had to vote on it, everything to have it at the beginning. But at the end, I think that I don't agree with it being there, but I think that you should allow the sign-ups to go until that time, because the meetings, you don't know if they're going to go an hour or 4 hours, and I think that you need to be mindful and make it accessible to the people, because a lot of people work, they have children at home, they can't sit here for 4 hours, they have to sign in at the beginning and wait. So I think one change would be leave the sign up out there until it's time for public comments, so that people that can't come at the beginning can come and still sign up and say their piece. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeanette. Appreciate it. Jeanette, you were the last one on the sign-up sheet, so we'll move on now to 10, city manager's report. Kent?
Okay, Mayor and Council, my report's pretty brief this evening. I have 3 items of the city manager's report. First off is the TML statement on the American Rescue Plan Act funds. And I'd like to start by thanking both Jet Burns and Jeanette Harmuth this evening for presenting your questions and concerns in a very civil, professional, and non-confrontational manner. I appreciate that very much. In terms of Ms. Marshall, I may be guilty of a lot of things, but I can tell you one thing I've never been guilty of is lying in public, lying to city council, lying to city staff, lying, period. So I want to clarify that for the record. So that said, I will offer a couple of comments regarding the American Rescue Plan Act. TML included an incorrect statement regarding American Rescue Plan Act funds that I read at a previous council meeting that have since been retracted by TML. This statement stated that the agreement the city signed for receipt of American Rescue Plan Act funds is between the city and the Department of Emergency Management, the Texas Department of Emergency Management, and that the Texas Department of Emergency Management is the agency that enforces the agreement. That was all part of the previous TML statement. The statement went on to state that the agreement does not create a contractual relationship between the city and any department or division of the federal government. So once again, that whole statement has been retracted. A little background information: on December 13th, I was informed by one of our citizens, Jeanette Harmuth, that TML has retracted this statement due to an error. I want to thank Jeanette for bringing this to our attention. It was the first we knew that the TML had retracted that statement. Following receipt of her email, I immediately contacted Bill Longley, legal counsel for TML. He confirmed that they made a mistake and that cities do in fact have a contractual relationship with the federal government for receiving these funds, even though the funds are received directly from the Texas Department of Emergency Management. So with this confirmation, again, I'm retracting this portion of my previous statement on the TML position on this issue. However, the remainder of the statement provided by TML that I quoted at this previous council meeting appears to be accurate. I am not aware of any other TML position on American Rescue Plan Act funds that has been retracted or changed. And again, there's 6 or 8 parts of that statement that I read, and that was the one that has been retracted. And again, they admitted it was a mistake. In my discussions with Bill Longley with TML, I got the sense that it was a honest mistake on their part, and there was no malice or ill intent by TML for making that statement. I can also tell you there was no malice or ill intent on my part for reading that statement. Again, I relied on TML in their history of providing good advice to the cities in reading that statement. Jeanette also sent me an email today asking several other questions, and so I'd like to go ahead and respond to those questions for the record. So our first question says, I would like to know what led you to share the false statement from TML in the first place. So again, I did not know this statement was false, so I didn't realize it was false when I shared it. And I can tell you that cities around the state rely on statements from TML. They've generally given us very sound advice on state and federal issues. And in my history of working with them, they've never made this type of mistake before. So again, I relied on their statement. Did you not sign the agreement? The next question is, did you not sign the agreement with the U.S. Department of Treasury? Yes, I did sign that agreement. Did you not read and understand the clear terms, which includes compliance with executive orders? Yes, I did read and understand the terms of the executive orders. Next question. Who would enter into a contractual obligation in which the terms were left open-ended? Why would they? Why did you? And again, I signed that agreement because there's no current mandates or requirements from the federal government regarding vaccines, mask mandates, or any other COVID-related issue. And while I can't predict what's going to happen in the future, I can say, in my judgment, I do not think the federal government is going to set those mandates because those would affect every state in the country, 1,000 cities and counties, and I don't think that kind of requirement or mandate will be set in the future. So that is why I signed that contract, and along with 94% of other cities in the state of Texas that have signed the same type of contract. The last question says, don't you think it would be more transparent for you not only to announce that the TML retraction at the city council meeting, but also have the Fredericksburg standards clearly state that? I don't require this. I've never required the newspapers to say or not say anything. That's all Jeanette, part of freedom of press. They make their own judgments of what they report on and how they report different things that have happened at council meetings. So I would never take it upon myself to have the standard do anything. So I want to make sure that everybody understands that. And then, I'm sorry, the one last question she raised is, why has this information never been provided to the public? Once again, we were made aware of it last week. And since I made the statement in a public meeting, I thought it would be best to make this clarification statement at the meeting this evening. So that is a response to the questions that Jeanette raised. So,
And just so the public knows, we do have a reporter here from the Fredericksburg Standard Radio Post, Madeline. Would you kind of put your hand up? There you go. So we do have coverage. And what she decides or the editor decides to put in the paper will be their call. Thank you.
okay, next item on these. Well, let me just close by again thanking again Jeanette for bringing this to our attention. We appreciate it, and again, I appreciate both you and Jet raising your questions and concerns very very well, very professional this evening. Thank you. Moving on, the January, the city council will have 2 work sessions. So I wanted to make sure the public was aware of the work sessions because we've talked about those at a previous council meeting, but we've changed the location and time for those meetings. The first work session will be held on January 12th, which is a Wednesday. And this will be focused on the short-term rental ordinance, the zoning changes to our zoning ordinance. And that meeting will start at 6 o'clock at the University Center. And again, the only item on the agenda will be short-term rentals. Prior to that work session, in fact, this week, the city staff will be releasing the draft of the proposed changes to our zoning ordinance. Those will be posted on our website this week and available for public view. It will also include a summary of the changes. So you don't have to, if you don't want to read the entire document, it will include a summary of the proposed changes to our zoning ordinance. So again, all that information will be available this week, and hopefully you'll have a chance to review that. And for the city council, hopefully once you have reviewed it, you'll try to stop by and get with city staff if you have any questions prior to the January 12th work session. So any comments or questions on that report item? Okay, next item is, as the council is well aware, the agendas for council meetings seem to be getting longer and longer over the last couple of years. So looking at the first quarter of 2022, we've got a lot of items that are kind of stacked up for the council to consider. So one of the things we've changed in our tracking list is we're not only reporting to the council on what's coming up for your next 2 council meetings, but we're also trying to look out to the future and identify what's on your agenda for like the next 3 months. So when we get to that, the next agenda item, we'll kind of go through the entire list. And again, these are preliminary dates subject to change, but at least that'll give you a more advanced notice of some of the items coming before the council over the next couple of months. So that's all I have to report on this evening, man.
Okay, thank you. Comments?
None for me.
Tom?
I've got a few. First, I'd like to wish all the citizens of our community a Merry Christmas, and I hope this you have the opportunity to spend time with your families. Having the ability to interact with between citizens and government is a key part of our American Republic. And one way that local citizens can do this is to be sure that you're signed up with the city to receive council agendas. You can sign up with the city secretary and have the agenda packets emailed to you, so that you know what's on the council agenda. You can know what's on the Planning and Zoning Commission agenda, what's on the Historic Review Board agenda. One change that was in tonight's packet was an expanded city council agenda tracking list that was showing what's going to be on city council agendas going out through the first quarter through March 21st. And this is something that's brand new for the council. As Mr. Myers said, we have more and more business to take care of, and I see this as a real positive step forward. A couple other things, as far as the American Rescue funds, when the city was considering the 2021-2022 city budget, city staff made some recommendations that we use American Rescue Funds for various things, broadband expansion, uh, emergency preparedness generators. The discussion among the council was that these things were beneficial for our city, and the council, to the best of my knowledge, voted 5-0 to approve the 2021-2022 budget and to utilize the American Rescue Funds as part of that budget. So the idea that we have never formally accepted the American Rescue Funds is, in my book, is not true, because we did put them in this year's budget. We voted on the budget and we approved the budget. There's been a lot of talk about executive orders, and I want to make sure that everybody understands that executive orders are, when we talk about federal executive orders, these are orders that are issued by the President of the United States. And we need to realize that an executive order issued by the President is valid only during the presidency of that president. So an executive order that is issued by President Trump was in effect during President Trump's administration. An executive order that is issued by Mr. Biden is effective during his administration. As far as STRs, the STR ordinance is a perfect example of public policy in action. It has taken many months, because this is an important issue in our community. I believe that the development department has done a very good job in researching, reaching out to council and asking their opinions of various sections of the proposed ordinance. I think that that 8 months, according to Mr. Snyder, that has been going on for 8 months. I don't see this as being too long. I'm pretty confident that we will have a vote on zoning changes related to STRs before the municipal elections in May. I think that effective public policy takes time if you're going to get it right, and I applaud people that have gotten involved, and I'd just like everybody to understand that that there are differences of opinion on the STR ordinance among many people in the community. I think there is a lot of agreement on much of what is currently being proposed by the development department. In fact, I agree with probably 90% of it right now. We haven't seen a final draft. In fact, I would dare say that the draft of these zoning changes changes weekly, and my hat is off to Jason and his staff, who have put a lot of effort into this. I think they're doing a great job. I think that we are going to have an ordinance that is going to be very beneficial to our community. I'm sure not everybody is going to be happy with everything that's in it, but that's sometimes the way the cookie crumbles. So thank you for being involved. Thank you for coming to council meetings. If you need to talk to your elected officials, every one of us has contact information on the website. Call us up. we were able to talk other places besides at council meetings. So you're free to give me a call. I'm sure my fellow council members are in the same position that I am. Thank you. Merry Christmas, and we'll see you again.
Okay.
Thank you, Tom. I want to bounce off of George's Scrooge. If the citizens of Fredericksburg and Gillespie County and surrounding areas did not have the opportunity to go to our fabulous theater and see it, it was a fabulous, fabulous play. My hat's off to the entire staff, and especially Mr. Hoover. He nailed Scrooge perfectly, and happy he changed his attitude about Christmas. With that being said, I'd like to say Merry Christmas, Feliz Weihnachten, and Feliz Navidad. And I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
Have a motion by Jerry and a second by Bobby. Any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Let me give this to Shelley.